wasn't even backstage. I was sitting in the audience.
You were down in the
I was
audience?
down in the audience. I didn't have to worry because I didn't have a thing to do till the very end of the show, which was to present Best Picture.
Right.
What if the last great cowboy wasn't just a man on a horse, but a quiet rebel behind a camera? He never chased the spotlight, never followed the rules, and yet he redefined what it means to be a Hollywood legend. In the golden haze of 1950s, Hollywood, a young man stood unnoticed, lost in a crowd of hopefuls. His eyes were steel gray, his voice a low drawl, and his gaze seemed to pierce straight through time. No one could have guessed that this unremarkable figure would become one of the most enduring legends of American cinema. Clint Eastwood's journey from obscurity to icon wasn't just about fame. It was about resilience, reinvention, and a relentless refusal to bow to the expected. Born in San Francisco in 1930 during the throes of the Great Depression, Clint Eastwood came from working-class roots. His father worked odd jobs and moved the family frequently. By the time Clint graduated from high school, he had lived all over California. He wasn't handed opportunity. He carved it out of raw determination and sheer grit. After high school, he drifted through a series of blue-collar jobs: logger, steelworker, gas station attendant. Then came the Korean War. Drafted into the Army, Eastwood found himself stationed at Fort Ord. It wasn't combat that defined his service, but a freak accident. During a plane ride, the aircraft malfunctioned and crashed into the Pacific Ocean. Eastwood swam over 3 miles through frigid, shark-infested waters to safety. It was a moment that would later mirror the steely endurance of many characters he played on screen. Returning from service, Eastwood was drawn to acting, not by grand ambition, but by a nudge from an Army contact connected to Hollywood. It wasn't instant stardom. In the early years, he was relegated to small parts in B-movies. His rugged good looks and deep voice got him noticed, but not embraced. Critics dismissed him as wooden, studios saw him as too stiff, and producers couldn't place him. Still, he kept showing up. That tenacity would become his trademark. Cast as Rowdy Yates in the long-running TV Western, Eastwood began to gain public recognition. The role didn't make him a star, but it made him visible. His breakthrough came not in the United States, but in Italy, when director Sergio Leone took a chance on the unknown actor for a new kind of Western: violent, stylish, morally ambiguous. In A Fistful of Dollars, Eastwood donned a poncho, lit a cigar, and barely spoke. He didn't need to. His silence was menacing, powerful, cool. The Man with No Name trilogy, A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly redefined the Western and catapulted Eastwood into global stardom. He wasn't just a new kind of cowboy, he was a new kind of actor. One who spoke volumes in silence and carried authority without shouting. But fame is fleeting. Eastwood knew this. He didn't rest on the success of spaghetti westerns. He returned to Hollywood and proved that he was more than Leone's blank slate. He made bold choices, producing and directing films on his own terms. As Inspector Harry Callahan, Eastwood created a cultural lightning rod. With his .44 Magnum and a "make my day" snarl, he embodied the American frustration of the 1970s. Tough on crime, mistrustful of authority, fiercely independent. The film was controversial, criticized for glorifying violence, but audiences were riveted. Eastwood had tapped into something primal, yet the man behind the tough characters was more complicated. Unlike many action stars, Eastwood had a deep love for jazz, classical music, and quiet reflection. He was drawn to stories of moral complexity where heroes were flawed and villains weren't always clear-cut. In High Plains Drifter and Pale Rider, he revisited the Western but gave it a supernatural, almost spiritual depth. In The Outlaw Josie Wales, he portrayed a Confederate deserter driven by grief and revenge. These weren't one-dimensional characters, they were haunted, conflicted, and real. In the 1980s and 90s, while many of his contemporaries faded, Eastwood evolved. He took risks. He directed small, personal films like Bird, about jazz legend Charlie Parker. He made romantic dramas like The Bridges of Madison County, showing a tender side few expected. He didn't chase youth or trends. He embraced age and wisdom. Then came Unforgiven. The 1992 Western, which he directed and starred in, was a stunning deconstruction of the very myths he had helped build. The film was somber, violent, elegiac. It asked hard questions about heroism, justice, and the cost of killing. It won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director and Best Picture. Eastwood, once dismissed as a stiff cowboy, was now hailed as a master filmmaker. And he wasn't done. In his 70s, 80s, and even 90s, Eastwood kept creating. Mystic River, Million Dollar Baby, Letters from Iwo Jima, Gran Torino, American Sniper, The Mule. Each film was distinct, thoughtful, and often unexpectedly intimate. He directed with economy and clarity, favoring long takes and natural performances. His actors revered him. His films challenged audiences. In 2021, at 91, he directed and starred in Cry Macho, a quiet meditation on masculinity, regret, and redemption. It was a far cry from the angry young gunslinger. This was Eastwood as elder statesman, still writing, still watching, still listening. Throughout it all, Clint Eastwood remained fiercely independent. He never tied himself to studios, rarely sought mainstream approval, and often financed his own projects. He built his own production company, Malpaso, and cultivated a loyal creative team. He rarely gave interviews, preferring his films to do the talking. He was never easy to define. Politically, he walked his own line, libertarian, skeptical, outspoken. Personally, he lived a life full of contradictions, multiple relationships, many children, a devotion to fitness, and a quiet, private side that rarely made headlines. But always there was the work, the craft, the storytelling. Clint Eastwood's legacy is more than just the roles he played. It's the vision he brought to the screen. It's the careers he nurtured, the risks he took, the genres he reinvented. From westerns to war dramas, from thrillers to love stories, he made films that mattered, to him and to millions. There's a line in Unforgiven that sums up his worldview. It's a hell of a thing killing a man. You take away all he's got and all he's ever gonna have. That weight, that awareness of consequence, permeates Eastwood's best work. He never glorified violence. He examined it, he questioned it, and he never stopped evolving. Clint Eastwood never wanted to be a symbol, yet somewhere between the shadows of the Old West and the crumbling moral lines of modern America, that's exactly what he became. But beyond the myth, the scowling gunslinger, the cold cop, the quiet avenger, was a man who understood the power of restraint, the depth of silence, and the value of letting the image speak louder than the word. What makes Eastwood's journey extraordinary is not just its length, but its transformation. Few actors successfully navigate the transition to directing. Fewer still become masters of the craft. Eastwood didn't just shift behind the camera, he owned it. In an industry obsessed with reinvention, he simply evolved, slowly and decisively, like one of his characters emerging from the desert. Clint Eastwood's directing style can be described in one word: economical. He rarely shoots multiple takes. He often wraps early. He avoids over-editing. His sets are quiet, his instructions minimal. And yet, again and again, the result is emotional precision. This clarity comes from his deep trust in story and character. Whether he's directing a war epic like Letters from Iwo Jima or an intimate boxing drama like Million Dollar Baby, Eastwood doesn't clutter his films with noise or showmanship. Instead, he creates space. Space for actors to breathe, for audiences to feel, for truth to surface. He once said, "If you're trying to make a point, don't hammer it home. Let it land softly and let people walk out with it." This philosophy shows up in his work time and time again. In Mystic River, he explored childhood trauma, grief, and vengeance with tragic resonance. In Gran Torino, he gave voice to the alienation of aging and racial tension in suburban America. Even in American Sniper, a film mired in political controversy, Eastwood focused not on ideology, but on the psychological damage war inflicts on a soldier's soul. This ability to tell emotionally complex stories with restraint and control is rare. Eastwood never panders. He trusts the intelligence of the audience. He assumes they're listening, really listening, and they are. While Eastwood's screen presence inspired generations of actors, his directorial legacy arguably reshaped the industry even more profoundly. He gave unknowns a chance, trusted his collaborators, and never wasted time or money. Studios came to revere his efficiency, but what made him unique was not speed, it was vision. For years, Eastwood nurtured lesser-told stories. He brought Letters from Iwo Jima to life in Japanese, with Japanese actors reversing the American-centric view of war films. It was bold and unexpected, and yet it worked. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. In an era of formulaic blockbusters, he proved that mature, thoughtful dramas could still succeed commercially. He never chased trends or digital spectacle. He preferred raw performance, natural lighting, and analog soul. His influence can be felt in the work of directors like Denis Villeneuve, Taylor Sheridan, and even younger voices like Chloe Zhao. Filmmakers drawn to minimalism, moral ambiguity, and wide, meditative landscapes. Eastwood showed that stillness could be just as thrilling as chaos, that silence could be louder than dialogue. But Clint Eastwood the man remains a puzzle. For every image of the stoic loner, there are anecdotes of kindness and humility. For every tale of his ironclad will, there are stories of warmth and patience on set. He is not easily labeled. Politically, he has defied categorization. Libertarian in spirit, yet socially unpredictable. He has been both praised and criticized by both ends of the political spectrum. Yet, he rarely engages with critics. He moves forward, doing what he believes needs to be done. His personal life has been just as complex. Eastwood has had several long-term relationships, fathered 8 children with multiple women, and often kept his private life as guarded as possible. While tabloids speculated, he maintained a quiet dignity, never engaging in public feuds or scandals. He isn't perfect, and never pretended to be. But his children often speak of him with respect, and many have followed him into the industry. He encouraged independence and discipline, but not without affection. One daughter described him as firm but gentle, a combination that might also describe his greatest characters. Eastwood's screen persona has long been tied to American masculinity, but what's often missed is how much he's deconstructed that very ideal. His cowboys and cops were never invulnerable. They bled. They broke. They questioned their actions. In Unforgiven, William Money says, "I've killed women and children. I've killed just about everything that walks or crawls at one time or another. And I'm here to kill you." It's not bravado, it's confession. Eastwood gave voice to the emotional struggles men often hid. He portrayed grief, $1 Million Baby, guilt, Mystic River, fear, The Mule, and racial self-awareness, Gran Torino, in ways that peeled away layers of the tough guy myth. His characters suffered not just physically, but morally, and in that suffering, they became human. This evolution mirrored Eastwood's own journey, from the quiet, rugged hero of Rawhide to the grizzled elder reckoning with his legacy. His later roles speak of regret, of time lost, of wisdom hard-earned. Few actors have embraced aging on screen as honestly as Eastwood. Most people slow down after a lifetime of work. Clint Eastwood simply didn't. While many actors retire by 60, he was just beginning to hit his stride as a filmmaker. Into his 70s, 80s, and even 90s, he continued to challenge himself. He rode horses, shot action scenes, and carried full dramatic weight in lead roles. His stamina was remarkable, but his creative hunger was even more so. "I don't look at a calendar," he once said. "I just keep going until I feel like I can't." Even in Cry Macho, 2021, at age 91, he played a man trying to recover his integrity, perhaps a quiet metaphor for Eastwood himself. The film wasn't flashy. It didn't break box office records. But it said something no Marvel movie could, that there is dignity in age, power in humility and value in a life well lived. His most recent work also shows a man grappling with mortality. Where once he faced enemies with guns drawn, now he faces time with open eyes. The themes of redemption, forgiveness, and inner peace dominate his later films. They're meditative, reflective, almost spiritual. No one actor or director has embodied the American psyche more than Clint Eastwood. He's a symbol of rugged independence, of doing things your own way. He represents a version of America that's self-reliant, skeptical of authority, and unafraid of solitude. But he also represents America's reckoning with its own myths. He's confronted the lies of manifest destiny, the moral cost of violence, the trauma of war, and the decline of industrial manhood. He has celebrated the dream while also exposing its cracks. In a way, Eastwood is the soul of a country in transition, holding on to its past while questioning its future. He is both the gunslinger who rides away and the old man who looks back, wondering if it was all worth it. Clint Eastwood's legacy will be measured not just in box office numbers or awards, though he has plenty of both. It will be measured in how he made people feel, how he made them think. His films have sparked debate, challenged assumptions, and pushed boundaries. He opened doors for aging actors. He championed diverse stories. He told war narratives from multiple perspectives. He made films with heart, without sentimentality. He also showed the industry that creative longevity is possible. That reinvention doesn't mean abandoning your core, it means going deeper into it. And perhaps most powerfully, he reminded us that one doesn't need to shout to be heard. Today, Clint Eastwood is not chasing accolades. He's not trying to be relevant. He's just working, directing, producing, composing, thinking. He prefers the quiet of Carmel, California, over the chaos of Los Angeles. He walks his dogs, plays piano, and still goes to the set when there's a story worth telling. To younger filmmakers, he's a giant. To critics, he's often enigmatic. To audiences, he's a familiar voice in a world of noise. And to cinema itself, he is a cornerstone, unchanging, dependable, essential. At this stage in Clint Eastwood's life, time is no longer an adversary, it's a companion. He no longer races against the clock as so many others do. He listens to it, feels it, uses it. And perhaps that's what has made him so enduring. While others rushed, he paused. While others aged reluctantly, he accepted the years as texture. Lines on the face, creaks in the joints, but also wisdom in the bones. He often speaks now of clarity, not just in storytelling, but in living. You learn not to waste words. Or moments, he said in a rare interview. There's always someone faster, louder, younger. But what they don't have is what you've learned from all the bruises. When you watch Eastwood walk today, there is no swagger. Just calm. No need to prove anything. The work speaks for itself, and it has spoken across generations. If John Wayne was the monument of American cinema, Eastwood is its echo. Less loud, more layered. His impact is felt not just in westerns or war films, but in how stories are told when cameras stop rolling, with integrity, humility, and purpose. He's seen the world change. He watched the golden age give way to New Hollywood, then to blockbusters, and finally into an era of streaming and CGI. But he never chased the trends. That, perhaps, is Eastwood's ultimate rebellion. Staying still while the world ran past. He's directed over 40 films, won Oscars, and shaped the lives of countless actors and filmmakers. And yet, he still speaks like a man on his first set. Curious, focused, almost shy about praise. In his Carmel home not far from the sea, Eastwood keeps an old Steinway piano. Sometimes in the quiet hours he plays. Soft, bluesy chords, simple and unfinished. He doesn't play for anyone but himself. That's what Eastwood has always done, create for the sake of it. Not for legacy, not for applause, but because something inside needs to come out. A feeling, a memory, a wound, a truth. As the sun sets on this remarkable career and life, it's clear Clint Eastwood has become more than a filmmaker. He's a storyteller in the purest sense, one who never shouted but was always heard. One who knew that a long silence could be louder than any speech. As Eastwood himself once said, "What you put into life is what you get out of it." And by that measure, his return has been immense. And in doing so, he leaves behind not just a trail of films, but a map for artists, for men, for Americans, on how to grow older, how to stay true, and how to tell the truth without ever raising your voice. Clint Eastwood's journey wasn't just about fame, fortune, or filmmaking. It was about longevity with integrity. An artist who grew old on his own terms in an industry obsessed with staying young. Through quiet strength, flawed heroes, and unspoken pain, Eastwood gave us stories that weren't clean or easy, but real. And maybe that's why we keep coming back. Because somewhere in the silence between his lines, we hear something honest, something human. If this story hit you the way it hit us, let us know in the comments. What's your favorite Eastwood moment, and who should we explore next? Don't forget to subscribe